Welcome back to part 2 on 10 things not to include in your will. So number 6, shares and interest in a company, aka private limited, aka Sendirian Berhad. So these are actually arrangements that I think best to be governed through the shareholders agreement and not put it just in the will itself. So if you have shares in any private company, I would suggest that your ownership of those shares be governed in the shareholders agreement, and then if there is a better way to dispose of those shares, maybe make such arrangement rather than just leave it in your will, because there are many complications when you leave behind your shares in the will. You might have minor children who may not have anybody to actually hold on trust on those shares, and then you might also have partners or shareholders in the company who may not want a inexperienced shareholder, say your adult children, to actually run the company with them. So there are more sophisticated options in how you could properly dispose of those shares upon your death. These are something that you could discuss with your shareholder and also your lawyer when you set up the company, and then properly draft out the shareholder agreement to ensure that there is smooth transition of your shares and the operations of the company. It will not be disrupted upon your death. Then number 7, jointly owned properties and joint bank account. So this is actually very common, and then it's a little bit complicated as to whether or not one actually have the right of survivorship when it comes to joint properties and joint bank accounts. So in Singapore, if you were to jointly own a property, the land title system by default is actually joint tenancy. What this means is that there is right of survivorship. So the second person or the other person in the joint name property would automatically own the 100% of the property upon the demise of one name owner. Whereas in Malaysia, the default on property is actually tenancy in common, which means that even if one party does pass on, his 50% share or hers 50% share do not automatically goes to the other surviving name owner. So it actually still needs to go through probate, or if he has a will, or just he would be the intestate. If he were to pass on intestate, which means without a will, then he would actually, his portion of that 50% of the property would actually be distributed according to Wills Act. So it depends on who actually gets the property. So it can get a little bit messy where, right now just one property, one house could have like more than 4 owners at the end of the probate process of one's demise. So that's on properties. Then on bank accounts, joint name in Singapore also by default right of survivorship, and in Malaysia this is a little bit unknown. It depends on the bank. Some local banks, they actually adopted the tenancy in common approach, whereby only the rightful beneficiary has a claim over the funds of the bank account. So on joint bank accounts, in Singapore, they adopted a joint tenancy approach, which means that the right of survivorship prevails, whereas in Malaysia, the banks actually adopted mixed approach. So for international banks, they take the right of survivorship, which means tenancy, joint tenancy, whereas the local banks, in my experience, they actually take the tenancy in common route, which means that only the rightful beneficiary could claim the balance of the funds. What this means is, upon being notified of the death of one person, they actually freeze the bank account. So that's essentially what it means. And as I've shared in a previous video, financial institutes like banks, insurance company, and other brokerage firms, they actually take a conservative approach when it comes to dispersing the funds of a deceased person under their control because they risk liability. A grant of probate actually helps with communicating or getting the banks to respond to you. So number 8, scratch out. I've seen some people actually thinking that they would be able to save some money by inserting their new amendments using a pen, and they just scratch out the beneficiary name and then writing out the new beneficiary name and then thinking that they're going to save some money by not rewriting the whole will. But this is actually very, very serious, because you might invalidate your whole entire will and defeats the purpose of you having a will altogether. So please don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Just don't try to save some money and cut some corner here, because this is like not the right place to do this. Please re-engage your licensed estate planner and also your probate lawyer to redraft your new will so that you put in your new intentions in your new will. Then number 9, what not to include in your will. Please do not write or insert some illegal request for your executor to administer, to go and execute for you. Like, please don't write something like, I really hate my neighbor Harold, please kill him. You know, like, this is definitely invalid and it will not be carried out, because like obviously right. Or upon my death, if you find the packet of the 3 kilos of heroin that I hide under my bed, please dispose of them. Like, please, guys, don't do this. And number 10, the last one, your personal items and the caring of your pets. Please do not include, I mean, unless you are such a habitual, cataloger or data entry person, I don't suppose people actually keep records to the level of detail like of your personal items, like how you would like how you would in a store, right? Like, you don't say things like, I own 10 handbags. Handbag number 1, my Birkin Himalayan ostrich leather handbag. 2, Sophie, my best friend. Number 2, my Patek Philippe watch goes to, say, my lover number 1, Philippe. I mean, yes, we have a lot of valuables, personal items that you would like to give to some specific people, but my strong recommendation is please do part with them during your lifetime so that it's less complicated and also more casual, and such thing actually holds more sentimental value to the person receiving it as a gift during your lifetime, rather than having let's say a lawyer handing it to him and say, yes, so and so has passed on, this is for you. Like, it's really impersonal. So if you do really love somebody and you really want to give them the continuous enjoyment of certain fine things in life, why not just pass it on to them for their enjoyment and use, during your lifetime? It's just something, right? You have 10 watches, just pass it on. And then on caring of pets, yes, technically speaking, you can actually say that I give my pet chameleon Jerry to my friendly neighbor Philip to take care of it, because he shares the same affection I have on my pet chameleon. Dear Philip, please feed my pet chameleon with organic vegetables and hormone-free insects 3 times a day, and clean its cage 2 times a week. You can, technically speaking, write this in your will. However, it's really hard for your pet chameleon to enforce his rights under this will if your neighbor Philip doesn't actually honor your wishes, right? So please, he's like, pet chameleon is not gonna bring Philip to court, and pet chameleon cannot complain that, hey, actually Philip did not feed me organic vegetables. It was like, the downstairs pasar vegetable that is definitely not organic. So it's, I would say, not so practical if you were to put this into a will. If you really love your pet chameleon, maybe have a more practical solution to take care of it. And I guess this is all that I could think of right now on what not to include in your will. So till next time, bye bye.